So good evening, everybody. First of all, a big thank you to Ashok ji and Sridevi ji for joining us. Thank you so much for being here. And I truly appreciate your taking time to be here with us on this particular session. And I'm so looking forward to hearing your insights a little later. Like as is our practice, we normally begin this program by asking you all a question to set the context for what we're going to be discussing. And my question to all of you young entrepreneurs and experienced entrepreneurs here, what is the easiest way to obtain commitment to a particular plan from your team? What is the one thing that you do, the easiest way to get a commitment to the plans that you have or or the organization has from your team? So the chat box is open. Go ahead, share your thoughts, share your ideas on that. And we'd love to hear from you. And I'll be reading them out. And that will give Sridevi ji, Dipti ji, Ashok ji a chance to know what you're thinking about. So let me open the chat box and see. Chat box is open. Everybody can send a chat. So if you can type out your response, that would be great. Stephen, thank you, Stephen. Stephen, congratulations. You're normally the first person off the block. Fantastic. Involve the team from the ideation of problem framing stage itself. Very nice, Stephen. Beautiful thought. Beautiful thought. Deepal says, share your goal. Discuss it with the team. Umesh, good evening, Umesh. Nice to see you here again. A workshop where the whole team sounds their feedback and we then have alignment. Nice. Very nice idea. Very interesting idea. Ashokji, we have a very involved audience, I must tell you, that, very participative, very involved audience. Any more answers coming? Pradeep says, make them a partner in success, hand out responsibilities, shared vision. Question is, how can you get your team involved or get their commitment to a particular thought, to a particular idea? What do we need to be doing? Because this is an important thing for us to set the base for our discussions later. Good evening, Reena. Appreciate the work they are doing so that they feel more involved. Very nice, Reena. Lovely answer. Narendra Bhai, who is our CEO based in Delhi. Narendra Bhai, welcome. Practice win-win. Very nice. Very interesting thought, Narendra Bhai. If you can expand on that, that would be great, if you can. Practice win-win. That's a great point that you've mentioned. Let's keep the chat box open for another 30 seconds to 45 seconds, Deepal. And then we can close that. Any other ideas? How do you obtain commitment? Lalita, good evening. Appreciate their consistency and perseverance. Very nice. Very interesting. Thank you so much for that. Right. The last 30 seconds, and then we can close the chat box, Deepal. Yeah. Well, thank you for those responses, ladies and gentlemen. I think that was very interesting. As an entrepreneur, when you want to create wealth, we've already expressed this fact that, the way to create wealth is to root your enterprise, to root your entire thinking in some simple stuff. Why is that important? As we get along in this journey of creating wealth, and we must all create wealth, there is no question about being ashamed of the fact that, should we create wealth? Should we not create wealth? Absolutely not. We must create wealth. That is the reason why we've set up the enterprise. And this wealth that we're going to be creating is something that we can then figure out how do we distribute, what should we do with the wealth and stuff like that. All that is different. But the fact is that you need to create that wealth in the initial phase is a given. I mean, that is something which is very important, and that is something that we need to be doing. One of the challenges that we will always face, and I'm glad that both Ashok and Sridevi are here, because both of them, have been at the level where people have been, they've been mentoring young entrepreneurs in their entire journey. One of the things that we should be very careful is, who are we going to let into the room? Okay. Who is going to be partnering with us in this entire process of creating wealth? So before we even begin by what do we need to do, there is one particular issue that we need to be very, very careful about. Okay. And we have some very interesting pointers from the Bhagavad Gita, okay, as to what are the kind of people that we should be very careful about and who we should, kind of avoid at any given point of time. Okay. So, who are these kinds of people that we should be very careful about? First is what is known as an Ashraddha Purusha. Okay. This is someone who has no faith. And this is a person that we've got to be very careful, because in this journey of ours, at an ideation stage or at a startup phase or at a survival phase, we need to avoid people who have no faith in the larger purpose of the organization, in the larger objective of the organization. And that is something that all of us as entrepreneurs have to be very, very careful about. Because if you get someone like this who has no faith in what the organization is trying to do, what the enterprise is trying to do, especially at the early stages of the entrepreneurship, you can run into real, real trouble. The challenge is, sometimes we bring in people because of how they are related to us. They may be friends, they may be relatives, they may be family, they may be whoever. But then, if you're going to be getting people there who have no faith, the Ashraddha Purusha, you've got to be very, very watchful. Because here is a person who will not help you move ahead in the enterprise. The second is, you can have somebody who we call a Mood Manusha, which means someone who is caught up in their own circumstances and who has no time to start thinking in terms of what is the purpose of the enterprise, how can I do it, more into themselves, into what's in it for me, caught up in their own circumstances. That's the second kind of person that you have to be very careful about. At the same time, you've got to be careful about this third person who we call a Mogasha. Here is someone who has vain hopes, who wants to paint the clouds. Impossible. Won't work. We need a certain amount of realism in this entire enterprise. Okay. The fourth is someone who is ready to do what is called Moga Karma, which means unfounded actions, running away on flights of fancy. Be very careful of these people when you're getting them in. Someone who has incorrect knowledge, Moga Jnana, okay, who doesn't have the right amount of knowledge, but who pretends to have that kind of knowledge. And here is again someone that you've got to be very careful about. Someone who's deluded, vichetsa, which means this is a person who's living in in an imaginary world, completely deluded. And you will be, going all round and round the circles. And someone who has a Surim Prakriti, which means an inimical nature. Now, here are 7 types of people that we've got to be very careful at the early stages of our enterprise. They may be great friends of ours, but check it out whether these are people who are going to be ready to get along with you on this journey of the enterprise, or who are going to keep putting stumbling blocks in your way. Very, very important to do this, because when you're trying to take this enterprise forward, and when you're trying to figure out a way in which you want to take this enterprise and make it something which is great, and you want to move this enterprise into a stage of being good, great will come later. But even in that, we've got to be very, very importantly, we've got to be there. I also asked you saying, how do we create this, this platform to get that, what do I call, to get that commitment? I believe there are 3 things that we need to be looking at. The first is consistency. Consistency of what? of both effort and thought. Consistency of thought and effort. Which means if there is something that we've decided at an early stage in our enterprise's life, then we must be consistent on that thought and the effort. There's no point in trying to do 100 different things. It's not going to work. So that consistency is something which is very, very important. Second, with consistency must come a singleness of pursuit. Because it is that single-mindedness, that ekagramana as we call it, which is so critical at any point of time for the enterprise. And the third is self-control, which means the point is to figure out a way in which we are going to get these three things. One, consistency, that single-mindedness of purpose, okay, that absolutely single-mindedness, and the third is self-control. If you were to do these three things on a regular basis, then this is an enterprise that is headed in the right way. This is an enterprise that is going to be able to create, what we want. So what are we talking about? When you're talking in terms of consistency, it's very, very important to remember that it is not just your thoughts, but your actions. All of this will lead to results. Because, when you're consistent in what you're going to do, there will be so many tugs and pulls that come in our way. All the enterprises that I've been working with right now, I keep telling them one simple thing. Why don't you write down what is it that you want to achieve? What is your purpose in life? And every other action that you want, figure out whether it is consistent with what you've written or not written. If it is not consistent with what you've written, junk it. It may be a great thing, it doesn't matter. If you want to revisit what you've written as a purpose statement, that's fine. But make sure that that consistency is something that is very, very important. The other point is singleness of purpose, that single-mindedness on the purpose of the enterprise. Make sure that you don't end up becoming a confused enterprise. And the third is the self-control that is required. Why is this self-control so important? Because, I've seen, for instance, the minute you get some amount of money coming into the enterprise, whether it is, bootstrapping, whether it is crowdsourcing, whether it is angel funding, whether it is anything that you want, slowly but surely you start losing control on the enterprise and what the enterprise would like to do and how the enterprise would like to do what it wants to do. And it becomes so important at that point of time to have that self-control. Because if you don't have that self-control, then this is an enterprise that can head in all kinds of different directions. So keep this thought in mind. At the end of the day, I have seen great enterprises built on the back of simplicity. If you want to evoke that commitment to the enterprise, to the purpose of the enterprise, I think that whole issue is very, very important, to be absolutely simple and look at this consistency, single-mindedness of purpose, and self-control. They're so simple. We've chosen a very interesting shloka to share with you. And I'm going to request Dipti to share this shloka with you and interpret it from her way. You know that Dipti is someone who's helped a number of women entrepreneurs, on their journey. And Dipti, I'm going to share the shloka. If you can help us with that, please.
Sure.
Yeah. Is my screen visible, Dipti, to you?
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tadaham pratyupahratam ashnami prayatatmanah. If one offers to me with devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or even water, I delightfully partake of that article offered with love by my devotee in pure consciousness. So, this shloka is basically talking about devotion. And for an entrepreneur, we know that an entrepreneur is devoted to the purpose of the organization. But while doing so, we need to also understand that no work is big or small, that every employee in the organization contributes, be he, it could be a watchman or a CEO of the organization. He contributes to the growth of the organization. And therefore, as a leader, an entrepreneur needs to recognize this and acknowledge it. And every employee of the organization should feel respected and valued. And when this happens, it creates a happy work culture. So, when we evaluate performance, we should also evaluate the values. Now, in this shloka, Krishna talks about a leaf, a flower. He's not talking about a garland. He's not talking about hundreds. He's not talking about 50s. He's just talking of one leaf, one. So that is enough. But with devotion, he says, I will accept it. Yeah. So it means that devotion is not about numbers. I believe that devotion, from an entrepreneur's perspective, should be that you are able to understand and be aware of what your actions can do to the organization. And in this awareness, if you take an action which will have a win win impact. I remember in one of the large public sector organization, I was talking about gratefulness. And while I was talking, I was mentioning about how gratitude creates bonds. So one of the general managers decided that he's going to implement this with his team members. And to his utter surprise, um, his members, team members told him that, no, they told the boss that, you are the first boss in the last 20 years who have actually come and valued our efforts. Now, a small gesture like this had made a big difference. It was towards the end of the year, the last quarter that the program was on. And obviously, last quarter, as all of us know, that is a high pressured quarter with the targets to be achieved. And the entire team decided that they're going to put in more hours of work, so that the targets can be achieved. Now, if you look at this, then you will find that devotion is not just about the task. The devotion is also about the people who work for you. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Dipti. So I, I personally feel that as entrepreneurs, we have somehow forgotten the power of simplicity. Simplicity is such an important, tool and armor for an entrepreneur. I can't tell you as much. And look at what the shloka is also saying. You can offer anything, but offer it with devotion. We get bogged down in complexity. I used to be in the advertising business earlier, and the best ads that we've created were the ones that were the simplest of thoughts. If it is a simple thought, it resonates with people. The more complex it becomes, we think that complexity is brilliance. It is not. It is simplicity that is brilliance. Very difficult, very tempting to make it very, very complex. But even in a rainbow with the seven colors, if you see, all the colors are very well defined. It's not that there is a kitsch of, different colors, but they're very well defined. Each of the things on the web gear are very well defined. Now that's simplicity at work for you. So anything that is to be done with simplicity is something that works very well. In all the work that we've done in the last 22 years in Born to Win and 22 years before that in advertising, let me tell you that all the entrepreneurs that have worked with us, it's really, really that simplicity that makes a big difference. I'm working with this company in Delhi now, which is a destination management company. It's called Tourish DMC. And when we were talking, they arrived at a very simple one. And their simplicity was, how can we deliver dreams? And it was as simple as that. And it is this simplicity that we really are trying to highlight in today's session, saying, let's get back to that simplicity. Let's not, complicate life by making it so difficult. I'll give you one more example. Um Mahatma Gandhi, master of simplicity. Imagine we are talking of 1920, almost 100 years ago, 1930, 1940. No WhatsApp, no email, no television, no radio, nothing. But look at the simplicity of his messages that got carried across the country. And invariably, Mahatma Gandhi used two words, just two words: quit India, Purna Swaraj. Okay? Bharat Chodo, Ahimsa hi dharm hai, do or die. Okay? The whole, Dandi March, salt satyagraha. It was just these two words that could go and get communicated across the country. As entrepreneurs, we need to revisit this whole business of simplicity and figure out the more simpler we are, I believe our propensity to create wealth will multiply. The more complex our thoughts are, our actions are, the more layered they are, the more difficult it is to go and create that wealth. I'm going to request our guests to weigh in now on the power of simplicity in creating, something great, in terms of creating something interesting. Let me begin by asking Ashok Mishra ji, with your vast experience, IIT and now Bangalore, and the work that you're doing. How would how would you advise our audience on
Mhm.
such an important aspect, Ashok ji?
Okay. So, I'll be brief. One of the things which somebody also mentioned in the chat box is, of course, simplicity is good, but you should have a very clear vision. It may be a little complicated, but that's all right. But it should be a vision which everybody in the team understands. So it has to be, therefore, a shared vision. And the more you be open with the team and develop that vision together, the chances of your success are more. Now, vision is itself not good enough, and people say mission statement and all that business. But to me, what's important is you should also have a roadmap. And this is where the simplicity comes in. That the roadmap steps, they may be 8, 10, 12. After 6 months where you want to be, after 2 years where you want to be. It should be spelled out in a very clear manner so that everybody's on the same page. So this is the two things about the vision and roadmap, which is absolutely imperative. Because sometimes people make a vision statement and they don't make a roadmap, and the team is all haywire. They don't know where we are going. Uh, I'm not saying you should be rigid on the roadmap. You can always, whenever you're going in a car, you have to sometimes take a left, right, but that's all right. But make that change when you come to that crossroad, not in the beginning. The second point you had talked about wealth creation. Of course, wealth creation, but I also see entrepreneurs as a job creation. I mean, look at Infosys. They created wealth, but how many thousands of jobs they created? Wipro, Cognizant, I mean, you name the companies. I know people who started and now they say, I have 2,000 people, I have 4,000 people, I have 10,000. I feel very proud that it's not just that it's a wealth creation, but in a way it's also wealth distribution. Because the more people they have, uh, they're growing, obviously. That's why they have the people. And if they're making money, then it's a wealth creation for all, not just some. You mentioned about be careful of people who have wild ideas, and I sort of disagree with that. You need to have one or two people in the team who think out of the box and think of flying high. And they are the ones who actually challenge the rest of the team. So they may be an outlier, but it's nice to have somebody who thinks out of the box, really out of the box, and uh, can therefore come up with products or services which the original people may not have thought of. So these are guys who actually challenge you, as long as they're within limits, of course. Um, Several people talked about this, that, and the other. There's to me, one thing which is absolutely essential, devotion and all this good, but ethics nobody talks about. You have to be absolutely ethical. In my experience, it may be a director of an institute or head of a company. The moment I see that there was some unethicalness in that person or in that company, I actually stop buying product of that company. I don't want to name anything of that nature. If I see that CEO has been to jail and all that with this, and it may be still a successful company today, but to me, ethics is absolutely imperative. You cannot compromise on character building and character of everybody in the company. Uh, then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, the togetherness of the group is important, that people should be on the same page, especially the founders and the venture capitalists who put in money in a company should actually check that out, that the founders are they may be friends, relatives, who cares? It doesn't matter. But are they on the same page? Sometimes relatives fight. So it doesn't have to be two brothers, but it has to be two people who think alike, and you see that there's a camaraderie between them to take things forward. So these are the few things that I would like to mention. Uh, and then at the end of the day, of course, you hear Mr. Narayan Murthy say 70-hour week, this, that, all that. But there is no shortcut to hard work. If you are working hard with a vision and ethical manner, I think everything else will follow. I think I'll leave it at that. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them. And all this, by the way, jives with with the shlok that you said. It all fits
Whatever
in
you
my
offer.
opinion.
Absolutely. So, Ashok, I completely agree. I mean, I was actually referring to people who have vain or useless, I mean, that's the point. And not out of the box. Out of the box, of course, is very, very
Yeah.
important.
Oh, of course, useless is
Yeah. The
not to
people
be
who have those
tolerated.
vain hopes or,
Right, right. Agree.
unfounded kind of stuff. That's the kind of
Yeah.
people that we need to be careful about. Uh, just to come back to you, Ashok, I just want to ask you one question. I know we're going to let you go a little early today. The question that I have for you, Ashok, is that, when you were director of IIT Bombay, am I right?
Yes,
Director. And you started the incubation center.
yes,
Some of those enterprises would have become, perhaps are doing extremely well right now.
yes.
Uh, any sharing on what are one or two things that they did right, what they got right, Ashokji?
Yeah, so at the bottom of it, the idea has to be uh, great. It has to be, of course, being in the IT system, it's based on science and technology. So the idea has to be sound. So whether it's I mean, some people went into drone technology, some people went into robotics, and things of that nature. So once you have, when your base of knowledge is sound, before you start an enterprise, I saw those people flourish and go forward. I mean, all the other things which I said, of course, are there, but the idea has to be sound. Um, and you'd have to have a business plan and all that. I mean, you would know all that. But even before you have a business plan, the idea has to be something which is unique, which will sell, not with two people, but thousands of people, whether it's in the country or outside the country. That is important. And it has to be based on sound principles, so that can be protected by IP and so on. So several companies have some actually went unicorn, but after I had left, but While I was there, several of them um, uh, graduated out of the incubator and became successful enterprises outside the idea system. Because we would give them only X amount of time and then they have to move on.
Yeah.
Of course, what is also what the important was that we provided them, and this is very important, that you have to provide mentoring to the young entrepreneurs, which is very important. The other thing which we did, which was unique, was not done earlier ever before. See, in the academic system, you have a system of sabbaticals. So after 6 years, you get seventh year off. You can go and work somewhere else, or write a book and all that business. Be off from teaching and admin responsibilities. We started the system that if you have an enterprise, if you have a startup, we'll give you a year off as a sabbatical year, which was not done before. So it's just changing the times. That encouraged some faculty members to take a year off and just concentrate on not on research and teaching, but on developing an enterprise.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ashok.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We'll come back to you. But Sridevi ji, I'd like to bring you into the conversation. ASCII is such a lovely institution, and you've got such an amazing experience. IIM Bangalore, ISB, and now with ASCII. Sridevi ji, your comments on simplicity and how it is a strong suit, not just for an entrepreneur, but in life. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
Ram Kumarji, after the wise words of Ajay Mishra ji, I am lack of words because he has been a guru in many ways. The initiatives and the concept which are embedded, which made everything simple. I'll start with the mission of ASCII. ASCII has been started in 1956 in association with Government of India and industry to deliver the needs of industry or practitioners who are going to be the managers and do it. A simple vision statement we have, which says Sangachatvam Samvantatvam, which says may we move together, may you speak together. It's nothing but have a shared effort. When we say we move together, it is like a yajna. We are offering work, and every part of us or everybody in the organization or every human being should move together in concert with each other. And not only that, we have to communicate effectively. So as said by you and Mishra sir, it says that we should talk and share thoughts with open minded, not in an argument form, and it should be uh, it's a simple way to grow as an organization, as an individual. This is what is our simple two words mission statement. We move like that, and over a period of time, we have evolved ourselves. Maybe from last year onwards, when we moved to IKS system by Professor Prasad Kaipaji, then we said, let us include Karma Yogi model and Karma Yogi mindset. And I'll tell you my experience, because theoretically, I think Ajay Mishra sir has expressed his thoughts. Practically, I'll tell you how we have implemented. I've been part of two programs. One is in August first week, where we conducted Atmanirbharta Karma Yogi Leadership Program. This was across defense sector. And we had defense PSUs. Then we had some private organizations which are working for defense sector. And also we had brigadiers and the above level people participating from tri-services. So here where we adopted and we exactly has done this like Atmanirbharta in a very, very simple way. Whatever we have, let us identify the critical sectors and also have a shared ethos to learn peer learning and also take a inform interaction and also strategic steps and technology implementation, growth in a right direction with simple techniques coming together, doing together consistently and achieving the goals of the nation. So here our dharma and our work ethics are for the nation. So here we are fostering all these things for the nation. This is the one program I've done. It has been a very, very successful event, and we have been furthermore enhancing it, and we have delivered to BDL and Coal India, where we have made a Karma Yogi leadership model out of it. Then here we have designed the similar simple thing. What we said is training leaders to view their work not just as a duty, and it should be an offering to the nation. And this itself is the intrinsic joy they receive, and the service will yield them a simple path of joy and success. So I think these are the two things I can contribute after Ajay Mishra said. Thank you for the opportunity, Ramji.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sridevi. Dipti, would you like to weigh in anything on the power of simplicity in creating wealth?
Simplicity. Yeah, so I do believe that simplicity is important. In fact, it should be simple so that it is easy to implement. The reason why we need to be simple is it is easy to implement and carry out whatever steps that are required. So, yes, simple, easy, and time bound is what I would put in as is required for uh, achieving the purpose.
Fantastic. So the whole point of this thought of leaving you guys with this whole issue of simplicity is, the work that we do is so full of stress, so full of fear, so full of anxiety. How do we get out of that stress? How do we get out of that anxiety? So where is this fear coming? Where is this anxiety? Where is this, anger coming? So we're all caught in this trap of the past or the future. And because we're caught in this trap of the past or the future, saying we're kind of, there's a lot of anger about what could have happened and why it didn't happen in our life. Or we're caught in the anxiety about the future and, the fear that can come with it and stuff like that. So how do you get out of this fear and anxiety syndrome? How do you get out of this anger syndrome about the past, about what couldn't have happened or what didn't happen? The only way for us to come out of that entire thinking about the past or the future, I'm not saying that you don't learn from the past, and I'm not saying that you don't focus on the future. But in the process of living in the past with anger or living in fear in the future, we forget the now. And therefore, it is extremely important for us to remember this particular aspect of how do we live in the now as entrepreneurs. And if you don't find that joy, if you don't find that purpose that is so critical, then everything that you do will become a grind. The only way to get out of this feeling of being overwhelmed about what is happening in our life is to figure out a way of making everything that you do, every action that you perform in the now, something which is filled with joy and happiness. So I'll give you another example of what I'm talking about. One of the companies that I was working with, young company, they were having a number of issues in terms of service quality deliverables. Like Ashok mentioned very correctly, if you don't have a solid product, you can get into a lot of trouble later. But they did have a good product. But they were having a number of issues in terms of service quality deliverables. And the more problems that they had, the more they were digging a deeper and deeper hole for themselves. Because there was so much of anger, there was so much of resentment with each other. There was so much of a blame going on from one another. Who is responsible for this particular mess that we are finding ourselves in right now? Is it the guys who've done the product? Is it the guys who are manufacturing it? Is it the guys who are taking it to the market? Is it the guys who are doing the installation? Is it the guys who are servicing it? Where is this mess happening? And it was at that time that when we started working with this organization, we said, look, guys, We're in a mess right now. The only way out of this is not to blame each other, is not to throw in the towel at this point of time. We have a good product. It's a product that works very well. Can we go back to the joy, the purpose of why we started this? Can we start finding joy in everything that we do? Can we start finding happiness in everything that we do? And within a period of 3 months, their entire outlook changed. And because they were enjoying themselves, because of that purpose driven work that they were doing, they managed to start moving from survival to scaling of the enterprise. This just one mind shift of embracing simplicity. Simplicity of what? Simplicity of finding joy. Made sure that everybody in that team started working with a certain kind of devotion. And that grind, that daily grind of saying, oh my God, I've got to go back to office today, was completely replaced by this thought of saying, let's go and get it, let's go and work, and let's turn things around. It was this vision, as Ashok was mentioning earlier, that we've come together because we want to deliver an outstanding product, and we have a good product. But it's just this, that there is some mix-up that's happening, and we're not able to get a great product into the giving a great experience for our customers. I can't again overemphasize the need for you to delayer stuff and get back to doing what you need to be doing. Reimagining that purpose that you've come with, making it into a journey of joy, making it into a journey of happiness, and bingo, you will start getting the answers that you want for your enterprise. I think the more I'm hearing of enterprises in trouble that we're consulting with, the more I'm hearing of them being extremely complex and layered. Decision making is slow because of the layering. Things are not working. Things don't happen on time. Ashok, you wanted to.
Yeah, I just want to caution one other thing. And I have seen that in some entrepreneurs, overconfidence and
Yes,
arrogance.
absolutely.
These two things have no place. Ethics are all maybe all right, but if you're arrogant and just
Yeah.
stuck to this is the way it's to be done and not flexible enough, and overconfidence, arrogance, are same.
Absolutely.
Similar things.
That's the
That
whole
has to
power of
be
simplicity,
addressed.
Ashok.
That's
That's the
right.
whole
That's
power of
it,
simplicity.
exactly.
Simple
It fits with the
person.
power of simplicity.
Yeah. So let me first begin by saying how was the experience, Narendra bhai?
Excellent, sir. Excellent. Very good.
Okay. Umesh, which room were you in? All right, doesn't
I
matter.
forgot
How was
forgot the
your
name. Sorry.
experience?
Well,
In
it was good. Actually, I'm trying to recall the names. With Shaji, I think I had a very good discussion about his journey and me, my old journey and my wife's journey. It was interesting. I got in my whole family in. And then, of course, Sridevi ma'am was really helpful in putting this together. So we had a very good conversation. Yeah.
Very nice. Stephen, how was the experience?
Oh, wonderful. Never ever spoken to a director of an IIT before, so this was my first.
Yeah, normally you get scared, no? When you got to meet. I know. Manpreet ji, how was it?
Oh, it's very grateful. I'm so glad that there exists a circle like this that talks topics like this, and for us it was at a very right timing. We've just finished our product, getting into just into the market. Uh, First hire happening in a week or so, like 3-4 days away. It was very grounding, so to say. That and
How would you go about it? Wonderful, wonderful.
thank you.
Shaji?
Hello, hi. I'm very surprised to see that we were only 4 in that room, and I got a real good connection to one of the other member who is actually doing similar work. Okay, so that's one thing. The second thing, I was touched by the topic. Ms. Sridevi ma'am asked me to talk about simplicity. I always get confused whether being simple in a startup world is something, and everybody is pushing their limits and boasting their ideas and showing a larger than life to get funds, to get attract more clients and all. Being simple is always confusing, or I always had this conflict whether to be very simple and true, realistic, or to show larger than life picture. But here I felt very comfortable. She asked me to choose to talk about simplicity, and I really love that.
So Shadji, I mean, let me tell you all. I must have mentored more than 10,000 businesses in my life till now, in the last 22 years. And I keep telling people one simple thing. Why are you here? What do you want to achieve in life? Why did you start this enterprise? I mean, let me tell you about myself. I was, in Bombay, doing extremely well in life, running the largest healthcare communications company, staying on the 21st floor. Dipti and I were, very, I mean, in inverted commas, very successful people. And then, one fine day, we both looked at each other and said, "Yaar, kya ho raha hai?" This is not life that we want. So let's get out and start Born to Win. And there was no need to do that. Life would have been continued. I mean, when we started Born to Win in 2003, 22 years now, would have continued to be in Bombay, I'm sure, life would have taken that particular trajectory. So why get out and do that? So I keep asking people the same question again and again. Why did you start this enterprise? And if you look at it, the answer to that is really 4 or 5 or 6 words. And they're very simple stuff. The minute you start complicating and adding layers to that, it becomes more and more and more and more difficult. The other day, I was in a angel network pitch, and Shaji, what you mentioned, I tell you, at the end of about 3 to 4 minutes, I was thoroughly confused. I said, "Boss, tera business kya hai? What do you want to achieve in life, yeah? And why are you playing it safe? I want to reach out to senior citizens. I want to reach out to women. I want to reach out to young girls. I want to reach out to young mothers." Arey, boss, I mean, how are you going to do this? You've got a great product or you've got a great idea. For God's sake, go finish senior citizens first. And then after you think you've captured the universe of senior citizens, now add one more layer to your product.
True.
I mean, if you look at some of the success stories in the last few years in India, I think the greatest success story from India in the last couple of years has been UPI.
Okay. Payment.
Unified, the payment interface. It is so simple. Because of its simplicity today, you can have someone who is a completely, I mean, I got a WhatsApp forward the other day, Diwali, when all the guys were gambling around that, little thing in a village, each of them had a QR code in front of him. So those who were losing money were, giving money, transferring money to each other on a QR code. No, I'll pay you later types. Right? Now, and you see, look at the power of that. It is so simple, the idea. I mean, behind is very, very, I mean, I'm sure the stack is a very complex stack to do and stuff like that. But the simplicity that you can, get that done. And one company, I mean, forget what happened later, that's a different issue altogether. But the company that rode on that was Paytm.
Yeah.
What a simple idea of taking every shop owner and saying Paytm karo. And, Paytm almost became UPI.
Yeah. Yeah.
Became part of your lexicon, right? So I think, when we go back and get that. That is when you will start getting joy and devotion at work. Because then people are not going to be confused. Then people are not going to end up saying, oh my God, what do I do now? You know, and they're going to be working like that. Fantastic. Any other questions? Anybody? Any other observations that anybody would like to make? Anything? We've got a couple of minutes. We can take a few questions. We can take a few. Anybody?
My question, Ram, is now, well, in an operating environment, a lot of these can actually be put to practice. Like somebody earlier was saying, how do I shout out when I talk to investors or others? So it actually becomes a duplicity, right? Because you may want to be true and honest, but then it's also a fact that an investor wants to hear things which are impossible.
Sorry?
Wants to hear something which is impossible, right? And you have the capability to make it possible. So how do you, where is the trade-off, and how do you at all do a trade-off,
So I think, let me ask you another context. Let me put this in another context, Stephen. If you see, for instance, any of the conflicts that come, no, Stephen, later.
Sure.
It primarily comes from a promise that someone has made which cannot be delivered.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So if I'm an investor, Stephen, and I'm demanding things from you, okay?
Yeah.
I'm well within my right to keep making those demands, no, Stephen? Because I'm an investor. I'm putting money in you. Right?
Yeah.
Putting money into your enterprise, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Can you deliver is only something that you know. I don't know what is deliverable, right? I don't know what you can deliver. I don't know how much time will it take for you to deliver, etc.
Sure.
But just because I'm putting pressure on you as an investor and I'm holding a carrot in front of you, or I'm holding a bag of gold in front of your eyes, does it make then sense for you to bow into my demands for that short-term, satisfaction at that point of time, and then suffer in the long run? Is a question that you need to ask yourself.
True.
No? So if you can't deliver something, then I don't think you should even get into it, because you're causing long-term grief for yourself. And the power of simplicity, Stephen, comes from that. It is that simple answer saying, I am sorry, but this cannot be done.
Yeah.
I can't deliver this, full stop. Okay. If you still want to go ahead and make an investment in me, I can deliver 1, 2, 3, 4, period.
Okay.
Okay. Wherever I have advised, and the organizations that I've advised, Stephen, believe me, in the long run, the investors have always come back.
Mm-hmm.
They've respected the honesty of the
Sure.
Of the startup.
Of the founder. Yeah.
So I keep telling, just hold your ground, stand your ground. Don't promise something that you can't deliver. It's the maybes that cause the complexities later in life.
True. Absolutely.
No, it's the can-dos, which is the simple stuff.
Right.
Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 9 o'clock. Thank you so much, Sridevi ji, for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this session. Dipti, thank you so much for being here. Truly appreciate your taking the time. It's 9 o'clock, and we formally close the session.